All right, we've got some weird stuff to cover today.
There is a mobility show going on in Japan right now, which means there's tons of concepts coming out. Some of them are really cool, but some of them are really strange.
Yeah, some of these I'd actually want in my garage at some point, and some of them I don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. So we're going to go through some of the highlights from this show over in Japan, and yeah, all this stuff is from major OEMs, so pretty cool.
Now, to start things off, we have to talk about one of the stranger bits of news that we've seen recently. This came out just a couple days ago from Honda, and there's not a ton of information on it yet, but it's something that they're calling e-clutch.
Yeah, so e-clutch, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's an automatic clutch control system, basically, that you'd still have a clutch lever on your bike, but basically you don't have to use it. So obviously Honda's been playing around with dual clutch transmissions for a while, which are, as far as a lever on the handlebar goes, totally clutchless. This is a little bit of a different approach, but kind of in the same vein.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and read to you guys word for word what Honda has said about it so that we can take our interpretation from there. What they say is this is the world's first automatic clutch control system for a multi-gear manual motorcycle transmission. So, like you said, different from the dual clutch system. It says it enables smooth starting, shifting gears, and stopping without the need for the rider to operate a clutch lever. And then it has an asterisk, and it says, according to Honda research. It also says that the Honda e-clutch uses electronic control to provide instant fine-tuned clutch control for situations where driving force changes, such as starting, shifting, stopping, to achieve smooth starting, shifting, stopping more natural than a rider's manual clutch operation, which we'll see about that. But this says to meet a wide range of rider demands, a clutch can be operated like a normal manual motorcycle gripping the clutch lever, even when the clutch is controlled electronically, which they say allows the system to be used by more riders of diverse riding experience and skills who could concentrate on the fun of riding in more comfort. One of the more interesting things, though, they say here is the lightweight compact system can be installed without any major changes to existing engine layouts. So what it sounds like is this is something that they might apply to existing motorcycles. It's not necessarily a new model coming out, but a new option for maybe some existing motorcycles. But the thing that I don't understand, I mean, I get the idea of a bike like what they've done with their dual clutch motorcycles, but if you don't have to use the clutch, then what is the lever on the handlebar actually doing?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if the bike has all the technology it needs to move you down the road without any clutch input, then why even have it there? So in terms of like how you use it, it definitely sounds a lot to me like Honda's DCT, but as far as the actual tech that's powering it, seems to be very different. What we can see is from the little bit of imagery Honda's given us, it does look like kind of a small module that sits near where the clutch cable would normally connect. You can still see a clutch cable passing through there, and it looks to, when you pull the clutch lever, it's gonna go through the same motions as what would traditionally happen on any other Honda motorcycle, but now with this added complexity on top of it. So yeah, a lot of questions when it comes to this. Yeah. I mean, the first thing I think about is like, you buy a gas bike that you want a clutch and you're an experienced rider, but maybe your wife doesn't really know how to ride and then they could ride that bike. Or you want to use the clutch while you're off-road to modulate power going up a steep hill, but on the highway, maybe you don't want to use it. So a lot of questions. We don't know all the details yet, but I think out of everything we're going to cover in this video, this is maybe the closest to actually coming to the market.
It does, because moving to the next item we have on our list, we get into something pretty strange. This is from Yamaha, and they're calling this the Motoroid 2. The original Motoroid was revealed back in 2017, but this new Motoroid does a couple interesting things. For one, it's self-balancing.
Yeah, so the whole deal with this is you can walk up to the bike, it will lift itself up off of the kickstand, it can move itself to its owner or to its rider and move alongside its rider if you're, walking on a sidewalk and, I don't know, the street's next to you or something. So it's a bike that's supposed to kind of like, Tesla's technology now kind of move itself to where you are in order to get you out on the road. But man, does this look crazy.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing to think about because there have been other vehicles that have had a technology where you can hail it in a parking lot and it's supposed to be able to come to you. And of course, if you go on YouTube, you'll find a lot of videos of those systems not working out so well. I have to wonder how reliable, hopefully very, this system like this would be on a vehicle with two wheels. So yeah, it's an interesting idea. This is one of those items that seems like it's probably pretty far off of production. This is more kind of a radical idea of what's theoretically possible with technology, but it also does a couple interesting additional things. For one, it's got image recognition. It's an AI system to recognize your face as the rider.
Yeah, super cool. I mean, I think that's, like you said, this bike as a whole we're not going to see, but, Yamaha could definitely implement some technology like this where, they move away from a key and there's a sensor and a camera on the bike and it just recognizes that you're the rider and boom, turns on the bike and you can ride away.
Isn't necessarily that useful if you're wearing a helmet.
Yeah, but maybe they have eye recognition or something. It's just... They're working on technology that eventually will trickle down. Don't expect to see this bike at a dealership.
Could be interesting. Something else that they appear to be working on, and this is something that could potentially be closer to production, is what they're calling the Tricera. This is a three-wheel concept, so it's kind of like something along the lines of the Polaris Slingshot, although this Yamaha Tricera three-wheel concept looks a bit more like the Vanderhaal, if you've seen that three-wheeler. But it brings in a few different things, like it's got rear wheel steering in addition to the front two-wheel steering as well.
Yeah, and all electric. I mean, the Polaris offering is gas, so is the Vanderhaal. So an all-electric three-wheel, most of the time these are called auto cycles, I think would be pretty sweet. We have a lot of experience in at least the Slingshot. I've never driven the Vanderhaal. They're fun. I don't know that I'd add one to my garage, but I mean, it's like a rental vehicle if you're on vacation. The Polaris is very popular, so it would make sense that another major OEM wants to compete in that space.
And speaking of three-wheelers, so far, this is my favorite thing that we will have seen today. This is the Yamaha TMW. So this is an interesting combination almost of the Nikon technology and a more TW200-like package, which is an interesting idea. So it's got two front wheels, but it is a more off-road style bike. Basically, the thinking was, what if they brought that three-wheeler Nikon technology into an off-road bike? And the reason that's an interesting idea is because having those two front wheels actually gives you really good traction in adverse weather conditions on the front end. And theoretically, you could see where there would potentially be a lot of use for that when you're off-roading. The other interesting thing about this bike and its layout for an off-road bike is that you've got a gas engine that powers the rear wheel, but you have electric hub motors that power the front wheels. So potentially a lot of traction, stability, and yeah, you get to drive all three wheels.
Yeah, it looks really awesome. The coolest part about the TW200 is that giant 180 width rear tire in the back. And now you've got three of them. You have two up front, one in the rear. This looks awesome. When the Nikon was first announced, a lot of people didn't really understand it. A lot of people thought it was self-balancing, which it's not. It rides like a traditional motorcycle. It just, you have that extra contact patch up front. So this, I would imagine, would be the same thing. It's not going to self-balance. It just gives you that extra grip up front, which off-road, yeah, you've now got a much wider vehicle. You've now got a much heavier vehicle.
Yeah.
But you also have a vehicle that's got a ton of weight up front, a ton of contact patch up front, and it's driven up front. So it could be really good off-road.
Yeah, and again, I mean, to your point, you're adding weight, you're adding complexity, so there's potentially some downsides to it. But it is certainly an interesting idea because with the Nikon 2, there were some really big proponents of that bike, people that liked it a lot. Now, finally, we have to talk about the Yamaha EFV. And of course, there's tons of other vehicles from this show, but we kind of handpicked some of our favorites and maybe least favorites. But this last bike is one that Alex would be really excited to see.
Yeah, so Kase's favorite was the TMW. Mine by far is the EFV. And this is basically an electric mini race bike. Yamaha, I don't know why, for the longest time has just been completely out of the mini bike space. Honda kills it with all their mini bikes. Kawasaki comes pretty close with the Z125. They don't have quite the lineup that Honda has, but both Kase and I just love the mini-motos, and we both currently have and have had mini bikes in our garage in the past. So this uses the same power unit as the TYE electric trials bike, which was announced about a year ago. So it uses a powertrain that is already developed, and man, this just looks awesome. You've got this really flat tank, or what should be the tank area. It looks like a MotoGP tank to me. And man, this just looks so fun to cruise around a little racetrack. I really hope this comes to the market. And it should, because Yamaha needs some mini bikes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to have more motorcycles in this space would be fantastic, because those mini bikes are among the best-selling motorcycles for Honda. So it really makes us have to wonder, why aren't more manufacturers jumping on this train? Because people love these kind of bikes. And yeah, just that combination. Honestly, I think the TMW is a cool idea, but of everything that we've been talking about today, I mean, I'm not a track rider or anything, but I can see a lot of usefulness in this. Imagine making one of these street legal too. That would be pretty cool.
I've mentioned it, I think, in videos in the past. I know I've mentioned it to you off camera that Honda or Yamaha should make just a mini R1. Like, just make a little mini bike with whatever motor. It doesn't need to be fast, but put full fairings on it. Honda's got the Grom. Everyone loves to stunt those out. And I just feel like the R1, the R series bikes from Yamaha just have such a distinctive look that everyone can recognize. And throw some fairings on a mini bike, I think it would sell like crazy.
Yeah, it definitely would. And this is potentially a good platform to build something like that off of, because for a bike this size, I think being electric makes a lot of sense.
Totally. It makes perfect sense. I mean, you don't need a huge battery, so you can keep weights pretty low. And yeah, I mean, it looks rad. Out of everything on this list, I really, really want to ride this one.
Now, adjacent to the idea of electric motorcycles, Kawasaki also just came out with a number of hybrid motorcycles that, right now it's just specs that are released for European market. And we want to do a full-length video on those when we get that confirmation for them here in the US, specs and all. But yeah, some pretty interesting things going on now in the motorcycle industry. And we really want to know too, what do you guys think? Let us know down in the comments below. Are these kind of things that you're interested to see, interested to try out? Or are you thinking, no way, give me a gas-powered motorcycle that I steer and that I balance and leave it alone?
Yeah, I think I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts too. I mean, we covered the full EV Kawasaki's a little while ago when they were first announced, and I know a lot of you were disappointed in the specs. And yeah, we're just thinking that, if Kawasaki really wants to sell electric bikes and people want to get on board with electric bikes, they need to have good specs, because otherwise the brands are just going to see it as a failure from the very start and think that people don't want electric bikes, when really they just don't want electric bikes that can't do more than like 50, 55 miles an hour. So hopefully these hybrid bikes coming from Kawi will be totally different and have some real performance behind them. And yeah, that'll just lead to other brands doing the same in the future. But as of now, Kawasaki seems to be really leading the way in terms of bringing real products to market with new sorts of powertrains.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to see and interesting to test. I kind of want to withhold judgment until I'm able to ride something like that, because I've definitely been surprised before. As much as we get to ride a lot of different bikes and think we know it all, yeah, there's always something around the corner that throws you for a little bit of a loop. So we'll have to just wait and see. But until then, this is what's going on right now in the motorcycle industry.
Yeah, so check out alltfl.com so you don't miss anything. We'll catch you in the next video.